We trust our eyes completely.
Oh, absolutely. We have to.
Right. You wake up in the morning, you open them, and boom, there's the world. It's just right in front of you, instantly available.
Yeah, it feels entirely seamless.
It does. We treat our vision like this perfectly clear, unobstructed window into reality. But what if I told you that your physical eyes don't actually see anything at all?
It's a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah. That they are essentially just mindless camera lenses, and the actual literal seeing is being done by millions of inner eyes just sort of hidden deep inside the pitch black void of your skull.
It is a profoundly unsettling thought when you first encounter it, for sure.
Unsettling is a good word for it.
Because we're so attached to the idea that we are directly experiencing the universe,
Yeah.
But from a neurological standpoint, the idea that your eyes actually see is, well, it's entirely backwards.
Right.
And once you realize just how much of your immediate reality is being manufactured in the dark, I mean, it fundamentally shatters how you define the present moment.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We have a genuinely mind-bending journey ahead of us today.
We really do.
We are taking incredibly fascinating research that somehow seamlessly connects the microscopic biology of the human brain to the cosmic physics of space and time.
It's quite the leap, but it makes total sense.
Exactly. Our mission for you today is simple but massive. We are going to completely deconstruct two things you take for granted every single second of your life.
Get ready for this.
First, how you see the world around you. And second, how you experience time itself.
It sounds like we're jumping straight into science fiction, honestly.
I know, it really does.
But we're going to unpack the biological mechanics and the physics step by step. There's a deeply logical through line here.
Yeah, we're not just throwing crazy theories around.
Right. By the end of this, you will have a very firm grasp on these massive concepts. And I can guarantee you will never look at a clock or even your own reflection the same way again.
Okay, so let's dive right into the biological hardware.
Let's do it.
Because to understand how our reality might actually be an illusion, we have to start with the literal machinery of perception.
The physical setup.
Right. Our outer eyes, the ones you are using to look around the room right now, are essentially just passive light gatherers.
Just catching photons.
Exactly. They capture photons and convert them into electrical signals, and that is the end of their job. There's no understanding, no image rendering, no color comprehension.
Nothing like that at all.
Just raw electrical data being fired off into the dark.
Exactly. They act purely as data conduits. Those electrical signals are fired to the very back of the brain, into the visual cortex.
Which is where the magic happens.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is the sheer division of labor inside that processing center. The visual cortex is divided into 6 distinct cortical layers.
And this is where the concept of inner eyes comes into play, right? Because it's not just one big movie screen back there.
Far from it. Within those 6 layers, you have millions of specialized neurons known as feature detectors.
Feature detectors.
Yes. You can think of them as highly specialized internal eyes. And they divide the labor of vision in incredibly narrow, specific ways.
How specific are we talking?
Well, for instance, you have one specific layer of neurons that only processes edges and boundary lines.
Wait, just edges?
Just edges.
So it doesn't even know what the object is, it just looks for a line.
Precisely. It is entirely blind to color, to motion, to context. It just maps geometry.
That is wild.
And then another distinct layer exclusively processes color. Another is completely dedicated to tracking motion. None of these individual neural layers see the whole picture.
Right, they're completely isolated.
But they are all processing their specific piece of the puzzle simultaneously.
I love this because it makes me think of a high-stakes movie production.
That's a good way to look at it.
Like, your physical eyes are just the camera crew out in the field, shooting hours of raw, completely mindless footage. They don't know what the script is. They don't know what the movie's about. They just point and shoot.
Just gathering tape.
Exactly. But the visual cortex is the editing room, right? You've got this editing bay filled with millions of hyper-specialized editors. You've got one guy who only cuts the color grading.
Right.
Another editor who only works on the action scenes and motion. Someone else is just looking at the framing and the edges.
Working frantically.
Yes. And they are all frantically stitching these separate elements together in real time to project the final 3D movie that you, the viewer, experience as reality.
That is a brilliant analogy, and it perfectly illustrates the vulnerability of the entire system.
How so?
Well, we know for a fact that this editing room is the true source of vision because of a medical condition called cortical blindness.
Right, I've heard of this. This is where the cameras work, but the editors are on strike.
Exactly. If a person suffers damage to those inner neural layers, like if those feature detectors in the cortex are taken out of commission, that person is entirely 100% blind.
Wow.
Their outer physical eyes might be mechanically flawless. The lenses are perfect. They're taking in light. The optic nerve is firing perfectly fine.
The crew is filming.
The crew is filming, yes. But without the inner eyes to stitch the raw footage together, they perceive absolutely nothing.
That is terrifying, but also incredibly revealing. I mean, it means the 3D world we think we are walking through is actually a rendering.
A highly sophisticated rendering, yes.
Which makes me wonder if the visual cortex is this chaotic editing room on the outer surface of the brain, buzzing with millions of workers. Who is the director?
The director.
Yeah, who is taking the tape from the camera crew and handing it out to the editors.
To find the director, we have to travel away from the surface and go deep into the exact geometric center of the brain.
Right into the middle.
Yes. While the outer cortex is constantly buzzing with electrical storms and processing, there is a center point that remains perfectly still.
Like the eye of a hurricane.
Exactly like that. A physical anchor point amidst the chaos. We're talking primarily about two structures here, the thalamus and the pineal gland.
The pineal gland is wild to me. It's this tiny pea-shaped structure, but it has so much historical and biological baggage.
Oh, it really does.
Like Descartes famously called it the seat of the soul.
He did, because it sits so perfectly alone in the center of the brain symmetry. Most brain structures come in pairs, but the pineal gland is singular.
Oh, interesting.
And from an evolutionary biology perspective, it has a remarkable history. In some lower vertebrate species, the pineal gland literally functioned as a light-sensing parietal eye.
Wait, like an actual third eye?
A literal third eye on top of the head used to sense light and shadow.
That is so bizarre.
It is. In humans, obviously, it has retreated deep into the dark center of the brain. But it still responds to light signals to govern our circadian rhythm. It's our central biological clock.
Right, but when we talk about the director of the editing room, the real heavy lifter is the thalamus, specifically this subsection called the LGN.
Yes, the lateral geniculate nucleus, or LGN, located right within the thalamus. The thalamus is basically the great gateway of the brain.
The bouncer.
Yeah, the bouncer. Every single piece of visual data coming from your outer eyes goes directly to the LGN first. It is the motionless sorting center. It sits perfectly still in the middle of your brain, receives the raw data from the optic nerve, and then delegates it. It distributes it to those millions of inner eyes in the cortex.
Okay, here is where things get really weird for me. What happens when the camera crew goes to sleep?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. When we close our physical eyes at night, external light drops to zero. The cameras are effectively turned off. But we still see things. We dream, and we dream vividly.
Very vividly.
So how does the editing room keep projecting these 3D movies without any new footage coming in?
This is where the biological mechanics get truly bizarre, and it proves just how independent the editing room really is.
Okay, already.
When you enter REM sleep, a part of your brainstem called the pons activates, and the pons starts firing off massive electrical surges, called PGO waves, directly up into the thalamus.
So the pons is essentially sneaking fake, totally random electrical tapes into the director's office in the middle of the night.
That is exactly what is happening. The thalamus receives this internal electrical noise, and it just passes it along to the visual cortex.
Like it's business as usual.
Yes, because the inner eyes in the cortex, they don't know the physical eyes are closed. They don't know the difference between external photon data and internal electrical noise.
Wow.
They just receive electrical signals. So they do what they always do. They frantically stitch it together into a visual experience.
But dreams are so wildly incoherent. Like you'll be talking to your boss, and suddenly your boss is a giant bird, and you're in your childhood living room.
Right. It makes no sense.
So why don't we realize the tape is fake while it's playing?
It comes down to which departments in the brain are powered on and which are powered off.
Okay.
During sleep, you have incredible hyperactivation in the amygdala. That is the emotional processing center.
So you're feeling everything.
Exactly. You genuinely feel the visceral fear, the joy, the anxiety of the dream. But simultaneously, your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for logic, timeline tracking, and critical thinking, suffers from severe hypoactivity.
It's shut down.
It is effectively powered down.
Ah. So the logic center isn't awake to say, hey, none of this makes physical sense.
Right. You have all the emotional intensity and absolutely zero reality testing capabilities.
That explains so much.
So your inner eyes project these bizarre, chaotic images. Your emotional center reacts to them as if it's a life or death situation. And your logic center isn't there to hit the brakes. You just accept the hallucination as absolute reality.
Which perfectly explains why waking hallucinations happen too. The concept of top-down versus bottom-up processing really clicked for me here.
It's a crucial mechanism to understand. Bottom-up processing is what we've been discussing, raw sensory data coming from the outside world up through your eyes into your brain.
Building from the bottom up?
Exactly. But top-down processing is your brain's prediction engine. Because processing takes time, your brain is always trying to guess what it's going to see a millisecond before it actually sees it, based on memory and context.
It's constantly anticipating.
Yes, and usually the real data from the bottom constantly corrects the predictions from the top.
It's a feedback loop. But a hallucination is what happens when the prediction engine completely overpowers the real sensory data.
Precisely. Think of certain neurotransmitters, specifically dopamine and serotonin 5-HT2A receptors, as a volume dial for that top-down prediction mechanism.
Okay, a volume dial.
If there is a massive spike in those chemicals, the volume dial gets turned up so high that the brain's internal guesses completely drown out the real data coming from the physical eyes.
So the inner eyes just ignore the camera crew entirely.
They stop listening to the outer eyes entirely. They start projecting old fears, buried memories, and wild predictions directly out into the physical space around you.
And it doesn't even require a chemical spike to break the system. Let's talk about Charles Bonnet syndrome, because this absolutely blew my mind.
Oh, it's a fascinating phenomenon.
When someone goes completely physically blind later in life and they experience total sensory deprivation, well, the brain just gets bored.
It craves input.
Right. It has no external bottom-up data coming in, so the editing room just starts auto-playing old visual records to entertain itself, causing these intense, hyper-vivid hallucinations.
It highlights a fundamental truth about human neurology. Your brain is a relentless meaning-making machine. If you do not feed it reality, it will manufacture one. It cannot stand a vacuum.
Okay, I have to push back here, or at least take this to its logical extreme.
Go for it.
If our brain can generate a completely convincing, perfectly stitched 3D reality with the lens cap on while we dream.
Yes.
And if it can project vivid, high-definition hallucinations into the room when we are awake just by turning up a chemical volume dial,
Where are you going with this?
how do we know our normal, mundane waking life isn't just a highly controlled hallucination guided by daylight?
Well, it's an uncomfortable question, but honestly, many cognitive neuroscientists would completely agree with your phrasing.
Really?
Waking reality is a brain-generated hallucination.
Wow.
It just happens to be a hallucination that is firmly, consistently anchored to external data. But it is still a rendering. And crucially, because of the time it takes for those electrical signals to travel and be edited together, you are never actually seeing the present moment.
Because of the lag.
Yes, you are always living milliseconds in the past.
Okay, that right there is the perfect bridge. Because if biology proves that our physical experience of the present is just a delayed, highly edited illusion, what happens if we apply this exact same logic to how we see time on a cosmic scale?
This is where we leave biology and enter astrophysics. Because just as our eyes give us a severely limited, manufactured perspective of physical space, our consciousness gives us a severely limited perspective of time.
Right. Because we physically exist in a 3D world, we have a very restricted scale of perspective. We only see this tiny, microscopic fraction of space at any given moment.
A tiny slice.
And that restriction creates the illusion of what we call the present. But let's bring in Albert Einstein, because his concept of the block universe, or eternalism, completely breaks the intuitive way we think about living our lives. Walk me through the physics here, because it is heavy.
It is heavy, but let's expand our perspective dramatically. Imagine you have a theoretical massive telescope, and you can pull all the way back to view the universe on a truly cosmic scale.
Okay, I'm zooming out.
According to the block universe theory, when you expand your perspective that far, time stops moving.
It just stops.
It stops. We intuit time as a flowing river, moving from the past into the future. But in physics, time is just a static spatial dimension.
So it's a place.
Exactly. Just like you have length, width, and depth, the X, Y, and Z axis time, or T, is just another unmoving coordinate. It's a road. The road doesn't move, you just travel along it.
So wait, from a 4D perspective, time isn't something that is happening to us. The universe isn't updating moment by moment.
No. In a 40 block universe, the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously. They are all equally real, all at once.
That is so hard to wrap my head around.
Let's visualize this. Think about a planet like Earth, orbiting the sun. In our tiny 3D perspective, we see a solid sphere moving in a circle, day by day, year by year.
Right.
But if you shift to a 4D perspective and look at the entire lifespan of the solar system simultaneously, the Earth isn't a moving sphere at all.
It's the world line.
Exactly. From the exact moment the Earth was formed out of cosmic dust, all the way to the distant future moment, it will eventually be swallowed by a red giant star. Its entire path through space and time looks like a massive, continuous, spiraling tube or ribbon.
And in the block universe, that spiraling tube is completely static. It's unmoving.
Completely unmoving.
The beginning of the solar system is just one physical end of the tube. The destruction of the solar system is the other end, and both ends exist at the exact same time.
Yes, they're both just coordinates.
Which means the coffee I made for breakfast this morning still physically exists at a specific coordinate on that tube.
Yes, it does. The past doesn't vanish, and the future isn't unwritten. They are just locations you aren't currently occupying.
Wow.
The best way to visualize this is the film strip analogy. Think about our 3D experience of the present as sitting in a movie theater. You are watching a single frame of light flash on the screen for a fraction of a second.
Right, one frame at a time.
It feels like motion. It feels like change. But a 4D perspective is like taking the entire reel of film out of the projector and laying the strip perfectly flat on the floor.
And when you lay it flat, the opening scene and the grand climax are printed at the exact same time. They're both right there.
Exactly.
The motion of the movie, the change from scene to scene, the feeling of suspense about what happens next is an illusion created by the projector pulling the film. And in this cosmic scenario, the projector is just our limited 3D consciousness dragging us along the strip.
That perfectly captures the essence of eternalism. Motion and change are subjective illusions born from biological limitation.
See, here's where it gets really interesting for me, and I want to push on this. Building on that film strip idea, it's like reading a physical book.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. Just because you, the reader, are currently on page 50 doesn't mean page 100 hasn't been written yet. The entire story, beginning to end, exists simultaneously in that physical block of paper resting on your nightstand.
Right, the book is already complete.
You are just biologically restricted to experiencing it one word, one present moment at a time. But if that's true, if the universe is a static film strip, and we are quite literally trapped inside a single 3D frame, aren't we completely blind to the rest of the movie?
I see what you mean.
I mean, it feels profoundly hopeless if we're just locked in page 50, unable to perceive the rest of the block.
It would seem incredibly restrictive, yes.
Mm-hmm.
In systems theory, there's a universal rule. A part of a system cannot see the whole system simultaneously.
Because it's inside of it.
Exactly. A gear inside a watch cannot see the face of the watch. Because we are physical biological parts of the 3D world, our physical eyes can never zoom out to see the 4D block universe.
We're stuck.
But, and this is where it gets optimistic, we are not completely blind.
Because we have a workaround. We have an intellect that allows us to hack this 3D prison.
Yes, we do.
Because even if we can't physically step outside the universe to see the whole film strip, our minds are capable of realizing that the film is already recorded.
Exactly. Human intellect and wisdom allow us to transcend our physical sensory limitations. We can actually read the other frames.
How do we do that?
Well, think about stargazing. When you or any of our listeners step outside tonight and look up at the night sky, you are looking through a literal, functional, cosmic time machine.
Right, because of the speed of light. It takes time for those photons to cross the static block.
Precisely. The light from those stars takes centuries, sometimes millions of years, to reach the camera lenses in your eyes.
So it's ancient data.
Very ancient. So when you look at a distant star, you are absolutely not seeing it as it exists in your present 3D frame. You are physically reading previous frames of the cosmic film strip.
And we do this right here on Earth, too, without needing to look into deep space.
All the time.
Nature is full of frozen records. Paleontologists dig up fossils. Botanists study the inner rings of ancient trees. Climatologists pull up core samples of air that have been trapped under glaciers for hundreds of thousands of years.
It's all there.
Those are literally frozen chunks of the past. Our fragile 3D bodies can't travel back to the Jurassic period, but our intellect translates those frozen frames so we can see the past perfectly in our minds.
And the power of human intellect doesn't stop with the past. Because we understand the concept of causality, cause and effect, and because we have deciphered the fundamental laws of physics, we can actually read future frames of the film strip before we ever physically arrive at them.
That is incredible to think about. That's how we accurately predict a total solar eclipse centuries in advance, down to the exact geographical minute. Or think about space travel. We can calculate exactly where a rocket needs to be fired today, taking into account the rotation of the Earth and the orbit of Mars, so that it lands on a specific tiny crater 7 months from now. We are mathematically glimpsing the future.
This is the absolute triumph of human cognition. Our high-speed intellect links memory, which processes and stores the past, and prediction, which calculates the future.
Bringing it all together.
By holding both in our minds, our intellect allows us to synthesize all 3 stages of time simultaneously. Past, present, and future, all existing in a single conscious thought.
So if we synthesize all of this, what you're really saying is that our intellect essentially acts as a makeshift 4D telescope.
I really like that.
It allows our tiny, fragile 3D bodies, anchored in this one fleeting moment, to stretch our awareness across millions of years of time.
That is a beautiful way to phrase it. We are physically bound to one frame, yes. But intellectually, we roam the entire length of the film strip.
This is a lot to take in. If we pull all the way back, how do we synthesize these 2 massive ideas? How do the inner eyes in our brain connect to the cosmic block of time?
If you put all the pieces together, the picture looks like this. You are walking around right now with millions of future-detecting inner eyes inside your head. They are anchored by a motionless, silent center deep in your brain.
The editor and the director.
Right. Those inner eyes are desperately, relentlessly stitching together electrical signals to create the illusion of a moving, breathing, spontaneous 3D world. But in reality, you are moving through a 4D universe where the past, the present, and the future are already perfectly laid out, frozen in place like a giant static spiraling tube.
A completely static block.
Yes, your physical body is trapped in the illusion of the present moment, but your mind has the incredible, unique power to step back and read the whole story.
So, for you listening right now, I really want you to take this into your immediate reality. The next time you step outside and look up at the stars, or even just tonight when you close your eyes and your pond starts firing electrical noise to create a dream, remember that you are not just passively existing in the world.
You're an active participant.
Your brain is actively, furiously stitching together a 4D reality from inside a 3D physical prison. You are the director, the editing room, and the audience, all at once.
It completely reframes what it means to simply be alive, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes the mundane feel miraculous. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today as you go about your routine.
Oh, lay it on us.
If your life is truly like that static film strip we talked about, well, if the past, present, and future are already completely printed from start and finish on the cosmic block, and this flowing feeling of time is just a trick of your 3D perspective, who actually wrote the script?
Oh, wow.
And does that mean every choice you think you are going to make tomorrow was actually already made billions of years ago?
That is a haunting thought to end on.
The ultimate question of free will, hiding right behind those camera lenses you call eyes. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.